want to talk about the whole concept of red ocean, blue ocean for like your entire life. The first time I ever heard about that was in like a business video, and I don't know who like coined that term or like what it specifically actually means in terms of business. Like I'm sure you could Google it, but there are different ways in which you can apply this to whatever you're thinking about basically, and you can understand sort of kind of like the path that you need to go once you understand you're in a red ocean. And I got to thinking about this a lot this week because I understood that I was competing in a very red ocean for most of the things that I was doing, and I was already kind of taking the steps to move myself to an environment that didn't have as much competition for the things that I was going after. And I wanted to talk about that today. So mostly I'm going to talk about what I'm doing with my business and then what I'm doing with my love life. But it like pertains to everything. If you had a job and you found like the market was insanely tough, maybe you're in a red ocean. And so like the concept is like, you can move this to anything once you kind of realize. So I realized a long time ago that it was getting very red ocean in the eBay business. And so that's why on January 1st, I decided to make my LLC, and basically I'm building a boutique, an online boutique of all of my eBay stuff, and I'm moving it so where I can control all of the traffic, hopefully. So instead of spending money on promoted listings or, you know, whatever I was spending money on for these platforms to find customers for me, that was their only draw for using it basically. I would kind of take the risk of that into my own hands. So that's part of moving to a blue ocean, is like you're giving up some sort of stability that was the draw for everybody else on those platforms. So that's how it became a red ocean, because the barrier to entry was relatively low. You didn't have to accept that much risk, and they just found customers for you. So that sounds great to everybody until there's like so many sellers and so many items that there's not enough buyers. And then the same amount of sellers are competing for the dwindling amount of buyers and the dwindling amount of people that would spend their money. So while that ebbs and flows with the economy, it's you know, and like the amount of people that are resellers are, you know, it's going to ebb and flow with the economy as well. So there's a process of attrition where like people that sucked dropped out, right? And so like the numbers a little bit like favor those who can stick it out and like know what they're doing, but it's still a very red ocean. You're still gonna compete against the people that have the same stats that are perfect: free shipping, fast shipping, free returns, great pictures, great descriptions, great inventory, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing that you can really do that, you know, sets you apart in a very easy way. It's too saturated. And so like you start to like get insane when you're competing in a marketplace that is way too saturated and you don't have an unfair advantage. So like if I had a sourcing opportunity where like nobody else could get what I got, and I had such the margins that like it was just easy for me to make a lot of money with a little effort, that's a super unfair advantage. And you know, I'm sure that if I ever found that, like other people wouldn't recognize that that's happening and then try to fight me for that, like try to like figure out my source. So anyways, that's how like an unfair advantage can get you a tiny bit of an advantage like in a red ocean. But like if you move that to an area that is not saturated, your time period where you are the, you know, you control the market because nobody has figured out what you're doing yet, like you're gonna sail way faster. That's kind of like the whole thing. It's like, would you rather compete against a million people or like take more risk or assume something else that nobody else is doing in the other market and then totally crush it your own way until the other people catch up? It's always going to be this ebb and flow of like, you figure something out, you are the trailblazer, and then people catch up, right? You're never just going to be ahead for like forever. unless you continue to innovate. And innovating takes up a lot of brain space and a lot of resources and a lot of everything. So like there's gonna be a period of rest for you when you're doing the innovation. It's not like completely, you know, you're leading the pack basically. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're going to put effort into innovating, and if you're going to put effort into what you're doing wholeheartedly, you might as well do it in a market or an area of life that you can compete with your unfair advantage and get the most out of your effort if you're going to make the effort anyways. Because like one, you could feel like you're totally crushing it because you are, and then one, you're doing the exact same thing but in a saturated market and you could feel like a total loser. So I realized that that was happening maybe like a year and something ago with my job. I knew that there was a point in time where the economy would catch up with everything, and I knew that I was selling less and less, and I knew that there was, you know, more and more people turning to this lifestyle of flipping things. And I knew that if I'd stayed where I just used a couple of platforms or whatever, then my sales would keep going lower and lower and lower. What I was finding was like less and less and less available, and the margins were getting lower and lower. That's like a quick formula for like, I'm gonna go bankrupt. For like a lot of effort. And it's like an amount of effort that basically like burns you out. So instead of doing all that, I quickly like moved to like 6 platforms, and that didn't give me many, or like as many as I could. And that actually didn't give me many advantages because people caught up. Like it wasn't like I moved first, and it wasn't like I became the best seller on these other platforms and like just dominated. Like I kind of did it in a way that I was late to the party. I'm never like an early adopter of things. And while I wasn't as straight fucked as if I just stayed on one platform and didn't move my stuff elsewhere, I didn't have the cushion of the full trailblazer. Like I understood that. I was just doing the best that I could, and I was just trying to, you know, figure stuff out. So like when it came time to like think about how I can control this a little bit better and how I can trailblaze a little bit of a breathing room, like actual breathing room, I decided that I'd either have to completely change what I was selling, how I was selling, or I could like control like who sees it. Like I could control my audience, because that was a major problem. So without getting too much into like the reselling aspect of it, I decided January 1st that I was going to control a part of the problem, which was getting eyeballs on my things, or at least hopefully try to do that. Like learn how to do that, take that risk into my own hands instead of relying on somebody else to provide that for me, because it was getting very, very competitive. Like not just getting, it was at top saturation of the competitive. And that's not a great place to be. Like, especially when you're selling stuff that's relatively easy, you know, for other people to also get. So my unfair advantage is that I would fix things. I had a better eye for things, and I could still source no matter where I went, even if there was a ton of other resellers in the same stores as me, because I knew what I was doing for, you know, I've been doing this for a while and I know quality, but I also know when to take risk. So like that is always my unfair advantage over people who are just trying to like scan things on their phone. Like something that I sold just a couple of days ago, if you'd scanned that on your phone, you would have come back with no comps. Meaning like if you looked this up on eBay, there would have been nothing to say that this was valuable. I sold it for like almost $300 because I knew logically from my experience that this, I could make up a price and then somebody would probably buy it. And they did. So that is my unfair advantage. So like the opportunity is there for me still in the saturated market, but I want to bring that unfair advantage, that knowledge, and that kind of innovation inside of my brain that happens when I go out into the wild. I want to bring that and I want to expand that. And so this week I really worked on my website. I have literally no idea how to build a Shopify store. And a lot of the tutorials online are about how to build a Shopify store for people who drop ship, or how to build a Shopify store for replenishable items. I have a one-off store, and so it's kind of like a niche market, kind of, sort of, a little bit. I'm finding that the tutorials on YouTube on how to do this. So I was trying to find out, and I learned that it was kind of like a little bit of a niche market to make those types of videos for one-off stores that have like hundreds of items. So you don't arrange your Shopify store the exact same way that you would arrange a luxury store that sells like negligee or something, right? So like it's taken me a long time to even arrange and upload all of my products, and to like do this, and to like look at it from like a buyer's perspective, and to like see the layout. And I'm getting really like discouraged because I don't think it's great, and like most of the time I don't know what I'm doing with this. And so I'll do like hours and hours worth of work on this, like laying it out and doing things and making headers and making logos and choosing fonts and blah blah blah, but then I just watch another tutorial and I'm like, damn it, why didn't I know about that? It's like so complicated. So I would undo the work that I've been doing. And so this week has really been like, okay, this is the barrier to entry. If I think that it's a little bit hard and I'm trying to do a good job, if I didn't think I should do a good job and just slapped it up, then it wouldn't be hard, right? But like nobody's gonna buy it from like a crappy looking website, especially if I don't have super low prices. If I'm charging high prices and I have a crummy website with crummy policies and like all this stuff and it looks sketch, no one's gonna buy from me. So like the barrier to entry for this is kind of like a little bit of my blue ocean. It's not a brand new idea to like sell on Shopify, but like I don't have the same competition as the other people who are like drop shippers. I'm like a boutique of high-end items that I've curated, right? So it's a little bit different. So I do have a tiny bit of advantage that way, like cornering the market of like the used things and like moving it towards like creating my own brand. But it's still kind of a lot, and I see that it's a lot, and this is what separates me from other eBay sellers. And so like hopefully if that buyer can just find me, then they'll stick with me and they'll buy from my store. And so this week I was like, it's really hard, and I'm kind of like an intelligent person that takes like the rein into their own hands, especially this type of thing, and it's hard for me. So I'm sure it's going to be hard for other people. And like it's not hard if you hire other people to like go do it for you. But like I really want to like learn how to do this myself, and I don't have like super disposable income to just hire somebody to make me a one-off Shopify store. Like it's probably going to be hundreds of dollars or whatever to like have that person fix it all up and lay it all out. It's not like a simple store. So like I'm trying to do it myself, but I'm also trying to do it myself to understand and to like really hone in on what my brand is, and to like make all of these tiny little decisions. And so that's what I've been doing like this whole week. Like my previous week was very much like, okay, I am at this peak of what I'm doing with my dating life, and then it kind of like simmered down, and I'm like, okay, what else can I kind of push forward on? And then you can only push so far when you're in a saturated market. And so I was doing a lot of thinking of, you know, why am I building this website? How am I building this website? Like it all because I want to like use my unfair advantage in a market that's not so saturated, or that that my unfair advantage would actually get me somewhere even if it is saturated. So anyways, once you build an audience and once you build like a customer base, Like, you have marketing tools that are so much more powerful than sending out massive random likes to people on these other platforms and it ends up nowhere. Like, they're actually interested in your stuff versus if you know what it's like selling on Poshmark, or you know what it's like selling on eBay, it can feel like all of your efforts are going into an abyss. And like, you don't know what you're doing and you lose confidence and you just lose zest for life. And I'm trying to keep my life zesty. So this week I really was like working on that, but I realized that this week also that, so a downside of creating the Shopify store is that there is no built-in audience. Like, once I turn on my store, it's not gonna be like dollar signs everywhere. Like, I have to learn how to create this audience, and that's very layered, that's very like planned, and like, so it's not just, okay, here's the store, it's done. It's like, now there's strategy, and it's very much more involved than putting your crap up online and hoping for the best with promoted listings. It's a lot more involved, and I like that, but like, that is why people don't do this route. Like, that is why there's still some sort of advantage for me, because it's difficult. So you can think of this in terms of like dating as well. Like, if you look on online dating, the barrier to entry to create a profile, super low, especially if you don't have to pay for anything. But if you do pay for anything, it's still a very low barrier to entry. The way that people meet now, I do understand that they meet online super normal. Like, the way that people used to meet is not how they meet now. And so if you're watching my videos and you're like, why are you only online dating? It's because that's all I had time for, I thought. And I didn't have the skills of an in-person thing, I thought. And it would produce good enough results, I thought, that I didn't have to get good at the other stuff. I didn't have to get good at the in-person stuff. I am now realizing that that's not true. The dating market is so red ocean saturated that people have to compete against each other in a way that like, there's not many good options left. And like, the ones that are left are like, you're just hoping and praying that they're normal and they have a good job and that they want you back. Like, it's a mutual thing. And that they're not bitter and all used up from like this crazy dating world. So that's a kind of a big ask. And like, if you yourself, if you're viewing yourself as a product in this saturated market, you have to be like, holy crap, perfect. And like, you have, like, what is your unfair advantage? Like, online dating, what is your unfair advantage? Your looks, your job, your personality, what you may or may not be into. These are all of your unfair advantages when it comes to competing against other people for the same types of good other people. And that doesn't even guarantee you anything. So it's like, it brings you to this saturated market where insane things happen. I could tell you a story about 2 or 3 people that I talked to on the phone this week, but I'm not going to. But it was super interesting from like a psychological point of view, but like, just so indicative of what is happening in this saturated market and like the reasons why it's getting to like this crazy ass point. Like, it was just like a perfect explanation of how bad things are getting. And I saved one of these profiles online. I didn't swipe right on him or anything, and I didn't swipe no, so that I could show you an example of what a person is trying to do with their unfair advantage in this market. So this guy is hot, right? He has like a perfect body, like literally perfect. I think he's like a Chippendales like dancer or something. Like, I'll show you. I'll try not to. Do you see? So he's like beautiful, right? Like aesthetically pleasing, and he just looks great. So that's his unfair advantage. And his other unfair advantage is that he's young and he kind of like knows what he wants, okay? So what he's doing with this is that he's basically dictating, he has like a little bio and I'm gonna read it to you, but he is dictating to people who want to swipe right on him, who want to match with him. He's dictating all of his desires and he's not taking into account any of your desires. So that kind of doesn't make sense until I read this to you. But because he has an unfair advantage, because he's probably more physically attractive than most people, he is in turn trying to, because he brings that's part of his product. He brings that and he's like, if you want to match with me, then you have to kind of agree to this. And in a market where there was, you know, normal people who looked like him or whatever, and he didn't have that advantage, he couldn't dictate like he is in his profile. And so I'm just gonna read it to you to like not delay. But he says, I don't do one-word messages. If you send me a one-word message, I'll unmatch you. So basically he's like, please, like he doesn't even say please. He's like, don't put like 0 try, like you'll get unmatched. So he can demand that of you. And then he says, this includes 1 emoji messages. And his next thing, I'm very, very particular. And his next thing, most women are not going to make the cut. Next thing, I live a very wild lifestyle. Next paragraph, I also move, all caps, extremely fast. So if you take things slow, I'm not the one. So let's unpack that a little bit. So if he's very, very, very particular, that means that if he's swiped right on you and he is in your matches, like he's in my potential matches, that like kind of makes the woman feel, or whomever feel, that they've been chosen for a reason. You're like, oh, I am one of the ones that could possibly get to this guy. Like he's like purposely doing this. Like he might be really particular, but I think it's a tactic for him to like say, like, even though I have all these other things I have yet to tell you, like you're kind of special because you're like in the beginning of the weeding out process. I've already vetted you as a possibility, and like you're kind of in elite status now, and you kind of want to please him now because it seems very hard to get this guy, even though he's, you know, physically attractive, super attractive. So you want to follow the things that he's saying. You want to please him because you want to keep that chance, that elusive chance, right? Like that's the connotation that this is building in terms of like the psychology behind it. That's what I'm getting from it. Like he's also probably very like truthful, but it's like, you know, if you kind of want to play here, you're gonna have to move fast with me. And what does move fast mean? Well, I learned what move fast meant when I kind of hung out with Ken. I slowed him down to like making our date not the first day that we started talking, but at least the second day, so I could vet him a little bit. But what this is doing is it kind of makes you feel guilty if you have a longer vetting process. He probably did say this because people try to pen pal people and not everybody loves that. They do a lot of talking and not a lot of action and then just ghosting, and so that does waste time. But you know, another thing would be if you move so fast, then like you don't have a lot of like thought process of like, what am I even doing? Like, is this a good idea for me? Am I gonna regret this? All this stuff goes out the window because it's fast paced. So if you swipe right on him, then you're kind of agreeing to just be like, oh, this is fast paced or else he will go away. Like this whole profile was psychologically so interesting to me. Cause like, even though he might not have like bad intentions, like evil intentions, it just kind of is a little evil. Like he knows what he brings, and so he can command this. Like, I find that very intimidating. But like, I didn't fall for this trap. I said no, but I did save his profile so that I could read this to you because I knew I was gonna talk about this. So this is what happens in a market that's saturated where, you know, if he had other competition, he couldn't demand this kind of crap from people. He'd have to do the same thing that other people do, right? It's because his supply is low. So he says, I move extremely fast, so if you take things slow, I'm not the one. Then he says, I'm looking to hang out, so if that's not you, don't message me. So it's very bossy, very bossy. And it's very like if you're like, what kind of person do you think that he's looking for? He's not looking for the one. So if he moves extremely fast and he's moving to like hang out with you, he says next, I'm wanting someone who isn't the busy type. I don't wait longer than 24 hours to meet up. Don't bother if you can't handle me. So again, it's like you're trying to think, can I handle him? I can rise to the occasion, but like this might not even be for you, but he's picked you because he's already said that he's picky. And then you're like, but he's already vetted me. I have to see. Like, no, just swipe no on that, right? Like, it's not even worth it, because you're like, a person that looks like that and is meeting people 24 hours later, like how many people do you think have said yes to try to get to the spot? And how many people, like, you'd think that he'd be pretty like easy to get with because that's what he wants. And like, do you want that? So anyways, it's kind of sort of like that in a market where it's saturated. You get people who are demanding all kinds of things from you. So another example of, you know, something crazy that happens in a saturated market that wouldn't normally happen if the market wasn't like that. And there was a person that was in my matches, or my potential matches, and obviously had no face. I say obviously because of what I'm gonna tell you, but he had no face, but he had like hot body shown. So you know me, and I'm curious and I get bored, and I like to talk to those types of profiles to try to find the gems, because that is my kind of unfair advantage in the dating market. It's like, I'm gonna swipe right on people that don't normally probably get a lot of swipes. And the reason I know that they don't get a lot of swipe rights is because they tell me. So a lot of the time it's people who are not attractive. A lot of the time it's people who are married. Or it's a lot of the time it's people who are like, you know, trying to hide because of their position and their job. There's a lot of variety of why they would be faceless, but yeah. So anyways, there was this one person who was trying to offer me this proposition that was totally freaking insane. Mind you, my profile is straight up normal. I have like 5 or 6 pictures, and there's close-ups of me without makeup. There's ones of me with my full body, like recent ones, not like from like 20 years ago. And there's like, it's very normal. I have a full bio and like a full thing like laid out. So I attract a little bit of everybody, not just like creepy, weird profiles. And so when I get matched with a creepy, weird profile, I already have a leg up, because I just know that I will have the advantage in this kind of interaction, because they're hidden and I'm not. Like they need me, basically, is what I'm trying to say to you. So anyways, I understand this whole like push and pull thing and where I fall in the market, like where I have my unfair advantage. I do have, you know, slightly better personality than some people, and I do have communication skills that are slightly better, and I am slightly better looking than some people, and yada yada yada. I'm not like the top of the echelon, but I'm not like the worst. So I kind of have an idea of where I fall in this, but not really, because it's very subjective. But anyways, when it comes to like matching with these kinds of profile people, I always feel like I have the advantage, and I can discover if they're kind of, you know, interesting. They will do the most as far as trying to talk with me, because they don't really have that many matches. Versus if I talked with somebody who had a ton of matches, I might not be the best looking in their inbox, right? So that's how like the saturation is kind of like working in my favor when I pick these people that are profile less or headless or whatever. So anyways, he had a good looking body, but he had like nothing in his profile. And one of the first things he's telling me is that he has a girlfriend who, because of her history, something had happened to her, and she has intimacy problems, and they're all like triggered up for her, and they don't have an intimate relationship, but he didn't want to change the relationship that he had with her. So he has an emotional relationship with her, and it's great, and he doesn't want to leave her and she doesn't want to leave him, but they've come to an arrangement together that this is something that he can pursue if he wanted to have a physical relationship with somebody. And while I don't know that, when I match with him, that comes out. And I quickly decide that that's probably not for me, because I want to have an emotional connection with the person that I'm trying to have a physical connection with. While I do want kind of like a short-term thing, and I don't want to break hearts because I feel like I need to, like, you know, move from this place and not be attached to somebody in 6 months, this is not the arrangement that I'm looking for. And so, but I heard his sales pitch. I heard his sales pitch out. So his sales pitch was that he could hook up with me because I was perfect for him, right? I was perfect for him, and so I could hook up with him and still look for other people until I found one good enough to like leave him for. And in my head, I was like, what is the difference doing that with you versus somebody else who just wants to have a physical relationship with me? That the supply of that is great, and the demand of that is low. So like, I don't think there are a lot of women who are normal out there that just want, who are like decent human beings, who are like kind of a catch, who want to do that, who just want like emotionless hookups. And I'm saying emotionless, not because a one night stand or whatever could be, you know, not emotion. He's giving his emotions. That's the only thing he shares with his partner. So he's not going to give that to somebody else. Like, we actually literally talked about that. I was like, am I even supposed to kiss you? Like, what are the gray areas? What are the boundaries? And because he was like, I want you to respect my partner. And I'm just like, why would me as a normal person, why would I want this from you? So like, it didn't, he was trying to get the top of what he was trying to get and offering me the bottom of what I could try to get from this market. Do you see that? So it was kind of interesting. We had like an interesting talk, and like, he didn't understand why I didn't find that good enough. And I was like, because passion is one of those things that like is important for me for like even a casual relationship. And like, that's, you're just gonna hook up. Like, I need to have an emotional connection. And if you're very emotionally closed off because you're only giving that to the person that you're with or whatever, like, it doesn't matter why you have that arrangement. Like, that still is empty for me. Like, why would I say yes to that? And I was like, have you ever had an arrangement where this worked? And he's like, yeah, the girl was like, you know, she had totally given up on dating, and she'd like, you know, so he's like, my friend was right. I told my friend this, and she was like, that sounds like he's preying on people that like actually have like zero hope for the future. And like, I'm not there yet. That's not, I got hope for the future, and I don't need to do that. I don't need to say yes to that. It's basically like accepting like a 1 cent offer on something that you paid $100 for just to sell it. I don't need to sell it that fast, or I can sit on it and wait. If we're gonna cross metaphors here. So I don't know, talked with him for a little while, and then like, I was like, I'm not even going to entertain this if like I'm not attracted to you. You can fully see my profile and I can't see yours. And he's like, well, it's not for me to kind of like put our relationship on blast and be like very open about who I am, because then our friends would be like, well, why are you on Tinder? Like, it would draw questions about their relationship, and it wasn't for him to like put her situation on blast or whatever. And so that's why he was headless. And I was like, okay, but like, you know, there's still like, if you want to do this with me, I have to know what you look like, and I have to like you. Like, if physicalness is our only thing that is going on here, like, attraction has to be 100%, or like, that's not even worth it at all. Like 0% worth it for me. And just for like fun, I guess we decided to like, you know, have his face reveal, and he wasn't that attractive. It's like, you are so bonkers on what you think that like you can get. And it's horrible to say it like this, but it's like, that doesn't work. I'm sure that because like attractiveness is subjective, that he might be able to find a person that is not complicated, that is not married, that is not messed up, that doesn't have like 1,000 reasons why she's only looking for, you know, the reddest of red flags. Like, in my mind, they're like, the only people that would say yes to this are the people that have like full 100% given up, or like don't even care about finding the best of what they could get. Like, it's just like easy. Like, that would be easy to say yes to that. Because on the surface, it seems good. It seems like steady hookups. Like, if you look under the surface of even a tiny bit, you can see that there's problems with this kind of arrangement. Like, even though it seems honest, like what he's going to give you is out in the open, and you know, candor is great. I just see this as like something that's not good for you mentally, if like that's not really what you want and you're stuck in this situationship. It's like, out of all the situationships that you could be stuck in, this doesn't seem like the best one if you were going to be in one to begin with. Like, I would never pick this one where it's like emotionless with somebody that I didn't find attractive. No, thank you. Like, I'll never do that. I'd rather be single forever and never hook up with anybody. So anyways, like, the only sales pitch from him that was like any good was that it would be kind of like a long-term thing. That was the only part that was like slightly appealing at the end. And like, that's not good enough, because other people can supply that just as well. That doesn't do anything different than the other competition. So it's very interesting. And so like, I got to thinking, you have to get back on the horse as far as like going out to find your blue ocean when it comes to dating. You either have to go after the riskier profiles that nobody else wants to go after and like sort through them and get good at sorting through them, or you have to create a better product in yourself. You have to appeal to like the better matches, and that's kind of like a weird race to the top in like a strange way. Or you have to get better at in-person things. And then you have, you know, then you can have a bunch of different ways in order to find your person. So I decided that once a week I would take myself out to dinner, and I would go try out different places around me, and I would practice going out. And I would, you know, that's why I'm dressed up today, because I'm going to go out to a burger bar and have a burger and kind of hopefully talk to some people and just get kind of comfortable doing that. As an introvert, it's a little hard for me. And as a person who doesn't know anybody here, that's hard for me. But like, it's so red ocean online that I see that that is my unfair advantage. I can use the product that I have right now, like my looks wise, my personality wise, like everything, and I can take that into the world where other people are not willing to do that, and I can get good at flirting in person with strangers. And hopefully by the end of, you know, the summer, I will be a little bit better than I am now. I don't think that this is going to be like the perfect way to get a guy and, you know, have a long-term relationship, but it's better than just flopping around in this saturated market where people demand crazy ass things of you, and you know, you're kind of in the middle of the pack. Like that, it's just not that great. So I decided that I'm going to move to places where people don't want to put in the effort, and just try to get good at that. And it's uncomfortable and I don't really know how to do it that well, but I'm like, that's part of learning. So I don't know how to build my store or build my audience or build anything on my, you know, my online boutique, but I'm gonna try to learn. And I'm putting a deadline of a week. I've given myself like a month to do this, but it's taken like a lot more. But I'm gonna give myself an extension of a week, and hopefully I'll have at least a live website by the next time I see you. And hopefully by the next time I see you, maybe I'll have some stories about what it was like when I went out by myself. Like, I've done that a couple of times before, but it was always like purposeful, like after I went sourcing and I was just grabbing some food. Like, this will be a time where I'm just going to get some food just to like kind of chill out and hang out with people. Like, that's my purpose. It's not just to like go get some food, it's to like, you know, go socialize in person. So I have done this idea maybe 3 or 4 times, but now it's more intentional, if that makes any sense on the difference. So I really hope that this will, you know, unlock some ideas in your head of like what are you doing in your life that you're hitting roadblocks after roadblocks, and now you understand the reasons why there's roadblocks. It's because it's such a saturated market. So what can you do to like navigate that? Do you have unfair advantages that you can, you know, move towards? Like if it's in your job, maybe you need to go back to some school, and then you need to like, you know, compete against less people. Like, that's hard because everybody has degrees now. They like threw them out like candy, like back in the day when I went to college, like I told you guys before. And so it doesn't mean as much, but like experience means a lot. Doing something that people wouldn't want to do means a lot on your resume. And like the job market is super hard right now, so there's a lot of red ocean. So you got to do what you got to do to get to that market that you can use your unfair advantage to like the best of your abilities to get ahead. Like, the point is not to just stay in a life that's like you're just maintaining. You need to have a little bit of leeway sometimes, and this is how you build your leeway. You need to be a little bit uncomfortable. And so when you realize that, you know, this is not a time to coast, this is a time to push ahead when everybody else is kind of coasting, that's your sign that you could coast for a little bit longer later, but not now. So, I mean, I only need to be super uncomfortable and talk to weird people until I find that one. It just takes one. And I just need to build my website and like not understand what I'm doing until I do understand. And then it's like crystal clear. It's like the process is not comfortable, and the process is kind of like a long thing. But once it's dealt with, it's dealt with. And I'll have that skill over my competition, and you know, that learning curve is done and over with. And you know, my advantage is that I have that behind me and they still have that in front of them. There's the moat. So my moat for like everything is like, for like dating wise, is like I work on myself all the time. That is my moat. Like I work on my body, I work on my health, I work on my my mental health, I work on like everything. Like, it takes work to do that. And so if somebody finds you and they recognize that about you, and they know that they can't find these things in other people as easily, you'll be less disposable, you'll be less left swipeable. And yeah, so like that is your unfair advantage. And so I'm all about that in my life this week. And so I wanted to talk about that. And so I wanted to thank you for listening, and I hope that this was interesting, and I will see you guys in my next video next week.